The call to arms. Captain Nathan Porter stood on the bridge of the UES Relentless, his ship emerging from warp space near the Elysian homeworld. The ethereal aliens were losing a brutal war against the ruthless insectoid Bruners. In a desperate plea, the aliens asked the newly spacefaring humans for help. They offered advanced technology in exchange for human soldiers to fight and die. Nathan's human fleet approached the arrogant Elysian ships. An Elysian commander named Primus greeted them with condescension, ordering the primitive humans to the back of the fleet formation. Nathan, however, positioned his ships at the front instead, greatly annoying Primus. Primus watched smugly as thousands of organic Brunner ships attacked the human vanguard. He expected the Bruners to quickly slaughter the humans, allowing his aliens to strike from the sides. If the humans failed here, the war would be lost. The Bruners would butcher the aliens next. The future of the galaxy hinged on this battle, but Primus was in for a big surprise about human capabilities. The bridge of the UES Relentless was a hive of activity as the battle raged around them. Weapons officers shouted out target coordinates, while the navigation crew deftly maneuvered the ship through the chaos. Amidst the cacophony, a distress call cut through the noise. "Captain Porter, we're receiving an emergency transmission from an Elysian ship," the communications officer reported. "They're under heavy fire and requesting immediate assistance." Nathan's eyes narrowed as he studied the tactical display. The besieged Elysian vessel was located on the far side of the battlefield, well away from the main engagement. Primus's voice crackled over the comm channel, his tone laced with irritation. "Human ships, maintain your formation. We cannot afford to break rank and leave our flank exposed." Nathan hesitated for a moment, weighing his options. He knew that disobeying Primus's direct order could have serious consequences, but the thought of abandoning allies in need went against everything he believed in. "Helm, plot an intercept course to the Elysian ship," Nathan commanded. "Comms, inform the aliens that help is on the way." As the Relentless peeled away from the main fleet, a small group of human ships fell into formation behind it. They raced towards the stranded Elysian vessel, weapons primed and ready. The scene that greeted them was one of utter devastation. The Elysian ship was adrift, its hull riddled with scorch marks and gaping holes. A swarm of Brunner fighters buzzed around it like angry hornets, pouring relentless fire into the crippled craft. "All ships, form a defensive perimeter around the Elysian vessel," Nathan ordered. "Lay down covering fire and give them a chance to escape." The human ships surged forward, their weapons blazing to life. They formed a protective circle around the Elysian ship, absorbing the brunt of the Brunner assault. The withering barrage of human firepower forced the Bruners to retreat, scattering their formation. Primus's face appeared on the view screen, his features distorted with rage. "Captain Porter, what do you think you're doing? I gave you a direct order to maintain formation." Nathan met Primus's gaze unflinchingly. "I will not abandon allies in need, Commander. We're here to fight alongside the aliens, not watch them die." Before Primus could respond, the sensor officer's urgent voice filled the bridge. "Captain, we have incoming warp signatures. Multiple Brunner dreadnoughts emerging from hyperspace." The view screen shifted, revealing a group of massive Brunner ships, each one dwarfing the human and Elysian vessels. Their hulls were bristling with weapons, and their very presence seemed to darken the starfield around them. Primus's face paled, and his earlier bravado evaporated. "All ships, retreat immediately. We cannot engage those dreadnoughts head-on." But Nathan had other plans. "Negative, Commander. We're not running from this fight. All human ships, engage the dreadnoughts directly. Target their weak points and keep them off balance." The aliens hesitated, their ships wavering uncertainly. They feared that the humans' reckless tactics would doom them all. But as they watched the human vessels fearlessly charge towards the Brunner behemoths, they felt a surge of inspiration. Reluctantly at first, but with growing determination, the Elysian ships fell in behind their human allies. The battle that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The human ships, tiny in comparison to the Brunner dreadnoughts, wove through the enemy formations with incredible speed and agility. They struck at critical weak points, darting in and out of range before the Brunners could lock on. The aliens, emboldened by the humans' bravery, fought with renewed vigor. Their ships danced alongside the human vessels, their weapons firing in perfect synchrony. Together, they chipped away at the Brunner armor, slowly but surely wearing down their defenses. Suddenly, a massive explosion rocked the battlefield. One of the Brunner dreadnoughts, its hull breached by a sustained barrage from the human ships, erupted into a ball of flame. The shock wave rippled outwards, sending debris careening in all directions. The Brunners, thrown into disarray by the loss of their flagship, began to falter. Their formation crumbled as the Human-Elysian alliance pressed the advantage, pouring relentless fire into the enemy ranks. Slowly, inexorably, the Brunner ships began to turn tail and flee. The once mighty dreadnoughts limped away from the battlefield, their hulls battered and scarred. The Human-Elysian fleet surged forward, chasing down the retreating Brunners and hammering them with every weapon at their disposal. On the bridge of the Relentless, the crew erupted into cheers. They had done the impossible, turning the tide of battle against overwhelming odds. Nathan allowed himself a small smile, his eyes locked on the view screen as the last of the Brunner ships disappeared into the void. Part 2. Uneasy Allies. The Elysian High Council chamber was filled with an uneasy silence as the battle reports flooded in. The holographic displays showed the human ships, tiny specks against the vast expanse of space, fearlessly engaging the Brunner dreadnoughts. Elysian commanders watched in disbelief as the humans cut through the enemy formation, striking at critical weak points with surgical precision. As the Brunner ships retreated, the council members exchanged glances of begrudging admiration mixed with apprehension. They had underestimated the humans, dismissing them as primitive upstarts. But now, faced with the undeniable proof of their valor and effectiveness in combat, the aliens were forced to acknowledge their allies' strength. Primus, his pride wounded by the human success, stepped forward. "We cannot allow the humans to overshadow our own military prowess," he declared, his voice echoing through the chamber. "We must reassert Elysian dominance and prove that we are still the superior force in this alliance." The council members murmured in agreement, their unease growing at the thought of the humans' expanding influence. Primus continued, "I propose a joint operation to seize the Brunner outpost on Xanthus Prime. It is a heavily fortified position, but one that holds immense strategic value. We will take the lead in this assault, with the humans following our command." Nathan, who had been observing the council's deliberations, sensed the alien discomfort with human leadership. He knew that pushing too hard could fracture the already fragile alliance. With a measured tone, he addressed Primus. "Very well, Commander. We will follow your plan and support the Elysian forces in this operation." The combined Human-Elysian fleet emerged from warp space near Xanthus Prime, the Brunner outpost looming before them. The planet's surface was a patchwork of fortifications and weapon emplacements, bristling with defenses. Swarms of Brunner fighters buzzed around the outpost, ready to meet any incoming threat. Primus, his confidence buoyed by the Council's support, ordered the Elysian ships to commence a frontal assault. Nathan, studying the tactical displays, noticed the outpost's advanced defense systems and the large concentration of enemy forces. He opened a comm channel to Primus, his voice filled with concern. "Commander, I strongly advise against a direct attack. The outpost's defenses are too strong, and we risk heavy casualties." But Primus, his pride overriding his judgment, dismissed Nathan's warnings. "We are Elysian, Captain Porter. We do not cower before the enemy. Commence the attack." The Elysian ships surged forward, their weapons blazing as they engaged the Brunner defenses. But as they closed in, the outpost's weapon systems sprang to life, unleashing a barrage of fire that seemed to anticipate the aliens' every move. The Elysian ships were quickly overwhelmed, their shields failing under the onslaught. Nathan, watching the battle unfold with growing alarm, realized that the Bruners must have adapted to elision tactics and technology. They had laid a trap, and Primus had walked right into it. With a heavy heart, Nathan gave the order. All human ships, fall back and regroup. We need to reassess our strategy. Primus, his ships taking heavy fire, stubbornly refused to retreat. Negative, Captain Porter. We will not abandon this fight. All Elysian ships pressed the attack. But it was a futile effort. The Elysian ships, outmatched and outgunned, fell one by one, their hulls breaking apart under the relentless Brunner assault. Primus's ship, its shields failing, took a direct hit from a Brunner plasma cannon. The once proud vessel erupted into a ball of flame, scattering debris across the battlefield. Nathan, his heart heavy with the loss of Elysian lives, knew that he had to act quickly. He turned to his weapons officer, his voice filled with determination. Prepare a volley of EMP missiles. Target the outpost's defense systems and communication arrays. The human ships, still outside the range of the outpost weapons, launched a barrage of missiles. The projectiles streaked through space, their warheads detonating in a series of blinding flashes. The outpost's defenses flickered and died, its systems disabled by the electromagnetic pulse. Nathan then turned to his tactical officer. Deploy the drone swarm. Hit them hard and fast while they're disoriented. From the human ships, a cloud of small, nimble drones burst forth, each one armed with rapid-fire plasma cannons. They descended upon the outpost like a swarm of angry wasps, darting through the Brunner formations and unleashing a hail of deadly accurate fire. The Bruners, caught off guard by the sudden assault, scrambled to mount a defense. But the drones were too quick, too maneuverable. They wove through the enemy ranks, picking off targets with ruthless efficiency. The Elysian ships, seeing the opening created by the humans, regrouped and launched a coordinated assault on the outpost's weakened defenses. Their weapons, no longer hindered by the advanced Brunner systems, found their marks with devastating precision. Together, the human Elysian forces overwhelmed the Brunner defenders, their combined might proving too much for the enemy to withstand. The outpost's defenses crumbled, its fortifications reduced to smoldering ruins. As the last of the Brunner resistance was crushed, Nathan opened a comm channel to the remaining Elysian ships. The outpost is ours. Well done, everyone. This victory belongs to us all. The aliens, their ships battered but still intact, acknowledged the message with a mix of gratitude and solemnity. They had paid a heavy price for this victory, with many of their own lost in the battle. But they had also learned a valuable lesson about the strength of unity and the power of human ingenuity. As the human Elysian fleet secured the outpost and began to assess the damage, Nathan couldn't help but feel a sense of bittersweet triumph. They had won the day, but the cost had been high. He knew that the road ahead would be long and fraught with challenges, but he also knew that together, humans and aliens could face whatever the Bruners threw at them. Part 3. The Hidden Enemy. In the aftermath of the hard-fought victory at the Brunner outpost, the human Elysian alliance took a moment to catch their breath. Soldiers clapped each other on the back, medics tended to the wounded, and engineers sifted through the wreckage for anything useful. Nathan and his team got to work analyzing the captured Brunner technology, hoping to gain some insight into their enemy's capabilities. They cracked open damaged drones, dissected shattered weapon systems, and pored over salvaged data cores. What they found sent a chill down their spines. "Captain, you need to see this," Lieutenant Ava Patel called out, her voice tight with tension. Nathan rushed over to her workstation, where a holographic display showed a series of schematics and technical readouts. "The Bruners have been reverse engineering Elysian tech," Ava explained, pointing to the telltale signatures. "That's how they've been able to counter Elysian tactics so effectively. They've been studying their enemy and adapting their own technology to match." Nathan frowned, his mind racing. But how did they get their hands on Elysian tech in the first place? Ava hesitated, then brought up another set of data. "That's not all, sir," Look at these communication logs we recovered. Nathan leaned in, his eyes widening as he scanned the data. The logs showed evidence of Brunner operatives embedded within the Elysian government, passing along classified information and sabotaging military operations from within. They've infiltrated the Elysian High Council. Nathan breathed, his voice a mix of disbelief and anger. That explains how they always seem to be one step ahead. They've got inside help. Nathan knew he had to bring this information to the aliens immediately. He gathered his evidence and requested an audience with the High Council, hoping that they would see the gravity of the situation and take action. But when Nathan presented his findings to Primus and the other council members, he was met with a wall of skepticism and hostility. "You expect us to believe this fantasy?" Primus sneered, his eyes narrowing. "The great human captain trying to undermine our authority with baseless accusations." The other council members murmured in agreement, their expressions ranging from doubtful to outright hostile. Nathan tried to reason with them, pointing to the evidence and urging them to investigate further. But Primus cut him off, his voice dripping with disdain. "I think we've heard enough of your lies, Captain Porter. It's clear that you and your kind are not to be trusted. You seek to sow discord and chaos within our ranks to weaken us for your own gain." Primus turned to the other council members, his voice rising with righteous indignation. "I move that we expel the humans from our space, effective immediately. They have no place in our alliance." To Nathan's shock, the council voted in favor of Primus's motion, their fear and paranoia overriding their reason. They ordered the human fleet to depart Elysian space within the next solar cycle or face the consequences. Nathan stormed out of the council chamber, his mind reeling with frustration and anger. After everything they had done, after all the sacrifices they had made, this was how the aliens repaid them. He gave the order for the human fleet to prepare for departure, his heart heavy with the knowledge that they were abandoning their allies to the mercy of the Brunners. But just as they were about to depart, Nathan received an encrypted message on a secure channel. It was from a group of Elysian rebels who had seen through Primus's lies and believed in the humans' cause. "Captain Porter, we know the truth about the Brunner infiltration." The message read, "We have evidence that could expose the traitors in our midst, but we need your help. Please, don't abandon us now." Nathan hesitated, torn between his duty to his own people and his desire to help the aliens who had stood by them. In the end, he knew he couldn't turn his back on them. He made a decision that would change the course of the war. Nathan ordered the majority of the human fleet to return to Earth, while he and a hand-picked team of elite soldiers and engineers stayed behind to assist the Elysian rebels. They went underground, working in secret to gather evidence and recruit supporters. They moved through the shadows, always one step ahead of Primus's security forces, slowly building a case against the corrupt High Council. As they delved deeper into the conspiracy, they uncovered a truth that shook them to their core. The Brunner infiltration went far beyond the Elysian government. The insectoids had been manipulating the war from the very beginning, playing the aliens and humans against each other for their own twisted purposes. Nathan and the rebels exchanged grim looks as they pored over the damning evidence. They knew they were up against a foe more cunning and ruthless than they had ever imagined. But they also knew that they couldn't back down now, not when the fate of both their species hung in the balance. They steeled themselves for the fight ahead, knowing that they were the only ones who stood between the Brunners and total domination. It would be a battle fought in the shadows, a war waged with secrets and lies as much as guns and ships. But they were ready. They had to be. The future of the galaxy depended on it. Part 4. The Rebel Alliance. The Elysian capital was in chaos. Alarms blared, soldiers ran to their posts, and civilians cowered in their homes as Nathan and the rebel forces stormed the High Council chambers. They had spent weeks planning this moment, gathering supporters and stockpiling weapons. Now, armed with the knowledge of the Brunner infiltration, they were ready to strike. Nathan led the charge, his pulse rifle blazing as he cut down the guards at the entrance. The rebels poured in behind him, engaging the council's loyalists in a fierce firefight. Energy bolts crisscrossed the chamber, scorching the walls and shattering the ornate furniture. "Push forward," Nathan shouted over the din of battle. "We need to secure the council members." The rebels surged ahead, taking heavy casualties but slowly gaining ground. Nathan spotted a group of councilors trying to flee and sprinted after them, dodging and weaving through the crossfire. He caught up to them in a side corridor, leveling his rifle at the cowering aliens. "Surrender and you won't be harmed," he growled. But as he approached, one of the counselors lunged at him with a hidden blade. Nathan reacted on instinct, putting a bolt through the attacker's chest. The counselor fell to the ground, dead before he hit the floor. Nathan turned back to the others, his eyes hard. Anyone else feeling brave? The remaining counselors quickly dropped their weapons and raised their hands in surrender. As Nathan secured the prisoners, his comm crackled to life. "Captain, we've got a problem," came the voice of Ava Patel, his second in command. "Primus is trying to escape. He's heading for the hangar bay." Nathan cursed under his breath. "I'm on my way. Keep him contained." He sprinted through the halls, following the signs to the hangar. When he arrived, he found Primus cornered by a group of rebels, his once pristine robes singed and tattered. "It's over, Primus," Nathan called out, aiming his rifle at the Elysian leader. "Surrender, and you'll get a fair trial." Primus laughed, a harsh, grating sound. "You fool," he spat. "You have no idea what you've done." "We know about the Brunner infiltration," Nathan countered. "We know you've been working with them." "You think this is just about the aliens?" Primus sneered. "The Brunners have been playing you from the start. They've infiltrated your government, your military, your entire society. This war was never about conquest. It was about weakening both our races, making us ripe for the taking." Nathan felt a chill run down his spine. "You're lying," he said, but there was a tremor of doubt in his voice. "Am I?" Primus grinned, a vicious, predatory expression. "Go ahead, run back to your precious Earth. See how long it takes for the Brunners to crush your pathetic defenses." Nathan hesitated, his finger tightening on the trigger. He wanted to put a bolt right between Primus's eyes and be done with it. But if what the traitor said was true? He lowered his rifle, his mind racing. If the Brunners had infiltrated the human government, then returning to Earth would be playing right into their hands. He'd be walking into a trap, leaving the aliens to fend for themselves. But if he stayed, if he helped the aliens rebuild and prepare for the coming war, then maybe, just maybe, they'd have a chance. It was a slim hope, but it was better than the alternative. Nathan turned to his rebels, his expression grim. "Secure the prisoner," he ordered, "and get me a line to the Relentless. We have a lot of work to do." As the rebels hauled Primus away, Nathan looked out over the ruined city, his heart heavy with the weight of his decision. He knew that many would call him a traitor, a deserter, but he also knew that this was where he was needed most. The road ahead would be long and hard, and there was no guarantee of success. But with the aliens and humans united for the first time in centuries, they had a chance, and that was worth fighting for. Part 5. The Unseen War. As Nathan and his team worked to secure the capital, they knew that their fight was far from over. The Brunners had played them all for fools, and now they had to root out the enemy agents embedded deep within both Elysian and human societies. It was a daunting task, but they were determined to see it through. Nathan's team quickly set up a command center in the heart of the city, using the High Council's own facilities to coordinate their efforts. They began reaching out to trusted contacts and allies, both human and Elysian, to gather intelligence and build a network of resistance fighters. Ava Patel, Nathan's second in command, took charge of the intelligence operations. She was a brilliant strategist, and her sharp mind quickly began to piece together the threads of the Brunner conspiracy. "Captain, we've identified several key targets within the Elysian government," Ava reported one evening, her eyes scanning the holographic display. "These individuals have been feeding information to the Brunners and sabotaging our efforts from within." Nathan nodded, his jaw set in determination. Good work, Ava. Let's move quickly and quietly. We can't afford to tip our hand too soon. The rebels moved with precision, targeting the Brunner agents in a series of coordinated strikes. They arrested traitors, seized evidence, and dismantled enemy cells with ruthless efficiency. Each victory brought them one step closer to rooting out the corruption that had plagued the Elysian government for so long. But the Brunners were not idle. They struck back with a vengeance, launching surprise attacks and sabotage operations against the rebels. The city was plunged into chaos as the two sides battled for control. Nathan and his team fought tirelessly, their resolve unshaken by the constant danger. They knew that the stakes were higher than ever, and they were determined to see their mission through to the end. One night, as Nathan was poring over battle plans in the command center, Eva burst in, her face pale with urgency. "Captain, we've received an urgent transmission from Earth," she said, handing him a datapad. "It's from Admiral Hayes." Nathan's heart sank as he read the message. The Brunners had launched a massive offensive against Earth, using their infiltrators to cripple the planet's defenses. The situation was dire, and Admiral Hayes was calling for immediate reinforcements. "We have to go back," Nathan said, his voice heavy with resolve. "We can't leave Earth to fend for itself." Ava nodded, her eyes filled with determination. "But what about the aliens? We can't abandon them either." Nathan thought for a moment, then made his decision. "We'll split our forces. Ava, you stay here with half the team and continue the fight against the Brunners. I'll take the other half back to Earth to assist in the defense." Ava's eyes widened in surprise, but she quickly regained her composure. "Understood, Captain. We'll hold the line here." Nathan placed a hand on her shoulder, his eyes filled with gratitude. "Thank you, Ava. I know you can do this." As Nathan prepared to leave for Earth, he gathered his team for one final briefing. "We are facing a dark and dangerous enemy," he said, his voice strong and steady. "But we are also standing on the brink of a new era. If we can overcome this challenge, we will emerge stronger and more united than ever before. Let's show the Brunners that humanity and our allies will not be broken." With that, Nathan and his team boarded their ships and set a course for Earth, their hearts heavy with the weight of the battle ahead. They knew that the road would be long and hard, but they were ready to face whatever the future held. Part 6. Battle for Earth. The journey back to Earth was tense and silent. Nathan and his team knew that they were heading into a dire situation, and the weight of their mission pressed heavily on their shoulders. As they approached the Sol system, the scale of the Brunner assault became horrifyingly clear. The planet was surrounded by enemy ships, and the once proud Earth defense fleet was struggling to hold the line. Nathan's ship, the Relentless, emerged from warp space into the thick of the battle. Explosions lit up the darkness as human and Brunner vessels clashed in a desperate struggle for supremacy. Nathan quickly took stock of the situation, his eyes scanning the tactical displays. "All ships, form up on me," he ordered over the comm channel. "We need to break through the enemy lines and reach the surface. Earth needs our help." The human ships, battered but unbroken, rallied around the Relentless. They charged forward, their weapons blazing as they punched a hole through the Brunner blockade. The enemy ships, caught off guard by the sudden assault, scrambled to respond. Nathan's heart pounded in his chest as the Relentless weaved through the chaos, dodging enemy fire and returning with devastating precision. The ship's hull shook with each near miss, but Nathan remained focused, his mind racing with strategies and counter-maneuvers. "Captain, we've got incoming fighters," one of his officers shouted. Nathan's eyes flicked to the sensor display. A swarm of Brunner fighters was closing in fast, their sleek forms darting through the void with deadly intent. "Deploy point defense turrets," Nathan commanded. "Keep those fighters off us." The ship's turrets whirred to life, unleashing a storm of laser fire that cut through the enemy swarm. The Brunner fighters exploded in a series of bright flashes, but more kept coming, their numbers seemingly endless. "Hang on," everyone," Nathan shouted. "We're almost there." The Relentless pushed through the final wave of enemy ships, emerging into the atmosphere of Earth. Below them, the planet was a patchwork of devastation, with fires burning in the cities and the sounds of battle echoing through the air. Nathan's heart ached at the sight of his homeworld in ruins, but he knew that there was no time to dwell on it. They had a job to do. "Prepare for atmospheric entry," he ordered. "We're heading straight for the main battlefront." The ship's engines roared as they descended through the clouds, the ground rushing up to meet them. As they broke through the smoke and haze, Nathan could see the desperate fight unfolding below. Human soldiers and armored vehicles clashed with Brunner ground forces in a brutal melee, the fate of the planet hanging in the balance. "All units, deploy," Nathan shouted as the ship touched down. "We need to reinforce our troops and push the enemy back." The ship's hatches opened, and Nathan led his team into the fray. The ground shook with the force of the battle, and the air was thick with the acrid scent of burning metal and scorched earth. Nathan's pulse rifle blazed as he cut down Brunner soldiers, his movements precise and relentless. "Captain Porter, over here," a voice called out. Nathan turned to see Admiral Hayes, his face grim and determined, directing the human forces. Nathan fought his way to the Admiral's side, his breath coming in ragged gasps. "Admiral, what's the situation?" Nathan asked, his eyes scanning the battlefield. "It's bad, Captain," Hayes replied. "The Brunners have overrun several key positions, and we're barely holding the line. We need to retake the central command post and reestablish our defenses." Nathan nodded, his jaw set in determination. "We'll get it done, Admiral. Let's show these bastards what humanity is made of." With a fierce battle cry, Nathan led his team and the human soldiers in a charge towards the central command post. The fighting was intense and brutal, with both sides taking heavy casualties. But slowly, inch by inch, the humans began to push the Brunners back. Nathan's rifle blazed as he fought his way through the enemy lines, his mind focused on the mission. He knew that they had to succeed, that failure was not an option. The fate of Earth and the future of humanity depended on it. As they approached the command post, Nathan could see the Brunner forces faltering, their morale wavering in the face of the relentless human assault. He pressed the advantage, urging his troops forward with every ounce of strength he had left. "Keep pushing," he shouted. "We've got them on the run." The humans surged forward, their determination unwavering. They overwhelmed the Brunner defenses, reclaiming the command post and turning the tide of the battle. Nathan stood amidst the ruins, his body aching and his mind weary. But as he looked out over the battlefield, he felt a surge of hope. They had done it. They had held the line and pushed the Brunners back. But the war was far from over. Nathan knew that they still had a long road ahead, that the fight for Earth's survival was only just beginning. But with their allies by their side and their resolve unbroken, they would face whatever challenges came their way. Part 7. The Final Stand. The days following the battle for Earth were a blur of activity. The human and Elysian forces worked tirelessly to rebuild their defenses and prepare for the next wave of Brunner attacks. Nathan and his team coordinated with Admiral Hayes and the Elysian leaders, sharing intelligence and planning their next moves. The Brunners, reeling from their defeat, regrouped and launched a series of probing attacks, testing the human Elysian defenses. Each skirmish was a brutal reminder of the enemy's relentless determination, but Nathan and his allies held their ground, refusing to yield an inch. As the weeks turned into months, a fragile sense of hope began to take root. The human and Elysian forces grew stronger, their bonds of friendship and trust deepening with each passing day. They knew that the Brunners would not stop until they were utterly defeated, but they also knew that they were ready to face whatever came their way. One evening, as Nathan was reviewing battle plans in the command center, Ava approached him with a look of determination in her eyes. "Captain, we've intercepted a transmission from the Brunner High Command," she said, handing him a datapad. They're planning a massive assault on our main base. They're throwing everything they have at us." Nathan's heart sank as he read the details of the enemy's plan. The Bruners were desperate, and they were willing to sacrifice everything to crush the Human Elysian Alliance. "We need to be ready," Nathan said, his voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. "This will be our final stand. If we can hold them off here, we can break their back and end this war once and for all." Eva nodded, her resolve matching his. "We'll give it everything we got, Captain. They won't take us down without a fight." The days leading up to the battle were a flurry of preparations. The Human and Elysian forces fortified their positions, stockpiled weapons, and trained relentlessly. They knew that this would be the fight of their lives, and they were determined to make every shot count. As the enemy fleet approached, Nathan stood on the front lines, his pulse rifle at the ready. He looked out over the sea of determined faces, Human and Elysian soldiers standing side by side, their eyes filled with resolve. "This is it," Nathan said, his voice carrying over the assembled troops. "This is where we make our stand. The Bruners think they can break us, but they're wrong. We're stronger together, and we'll show them what true courage looks like. For Earth, for our allies, for the future of the galaxy, we fight." A roar of determination rose from the troops, and Nathan felt a surge of pride. They were ready. The battle that followed was the fiercest and most brutal yet. The Bruners threw everything they had at the Human Elysian defenses, their ships and soldiers swarming over the battlefield in a relentless tide of destruction. But the defenders stood firm, their resolve unshaken. Nathan fought with every ounce of strength he had, his rifle blazing as he cut down wave after wave of enemy soldiers. The ground shook with the force of explosions, and the air was thick with the acrid scent of burning metal and scorched earth. "Hold the line," he shouted, rallying his troops as the enemy pressed their assault. "Don't let them break through." The Human and Elysian forces fought with a ferocity born of desperation, their determination unwavering in the face of overwhelming odds. They held the line, inch by bloody inch, refusing to yield. As the battle raged on, Nathan saw a glimmer of hope. The Brunner forces, exhausted and demoralized, began to falter. The relentless Human Elysian defense was taking its toll, and the enemy's resolve was beginning to crack. "Push forward," Nathan shouted, his voice filled with determination. "We can do this. We can win." The defenders surged forward, their weapons blazing as they pressed the advantage. The Bruners, caught off guard by the sudden assault, began to fall back, their formation crumbling under the relentless onslaught. Nathan fought his way through the enemy lines, his heart pounding with determination. He knew that they had to seize this opportunity, that they had to break the Bruners once and for all. As they approached the enemy's command center, Nathan could see the fear in the eyes of the Brunner soldiers. They were on the brink of defeat, and they knew it. "Take them down," Nathan shouted, leading the charge into the heart of the enemy's position. For Earth, for our allies, for the future. The Human and Elysian forces overwhelmed the Brunner command center, their combined might proving too much for the enemy to withstand. The Bruners, realizing that their defeat was inevitable, began to retreat, their ships and soldiers fleeing in disarray. Nathan stood amidst the ruins of the enemy's position, his body aching and his mind weary. But as he looked out over the battlefield, he felt a surge of triumph. They had done it. They had held the line and broken the enemy's back. The war was over. Epilogue. A new dawn. In the weeks and months that followed, the Human and Elysian forces worked together to rebuild their shattered worlds. They forged new alliances and strengthened their bonds of friendship, determined to ensure that such a devastating war would never happen again. Nathan and his team were hailed as heroes, their names celebrated across the galaxy. But for Nathan, the true victory was in the unity and strength that had emerged from the ashes of war. They had faced the darkness together, and they had emerged stronger and more united than ever before. As he stood on the bridge of the Relentless, looking out at the stars, Nathan knew that the future was bright. They had faced their greatest challenge and emerged victorious. And with their allies by their side, they were ready to face whatever the future held. Together, they would build a new era of peace and prosperity, a testament to the strength of unity and the indomitable spirit of humanity.